This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health therapy, diagnosis, or treatment. The topics discussed on this podcast are intended to offer general insights and support, but are not personalized to any individual's unique mental health needs. If you have specific concerns about your mental health, please seek guidance from a qualified mental health professional or licensed therapist. Your mental well-being is important, and only a trained professional can provide tailored advice and care. If you are currently experiencing a mental health crisis, please call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 911, or go to your nearest emergency room immediately. Do not wait for a future appointment or podcast episode. Help is available right now. Remember, you are not alone, and support is always available.
Pull up a chair, take a breath, let's talk. Life gets messy and that's no shock. Honest words, no sugarcoat, just heat. Welcome to Holly's world, the hot seat. Hot seat.
I'm back. Did you miss me? I hope so. I have a question for you. Have you ever heard the term, and I'm sure you have, because when we were all young, we heard it. All of our elders would look at us and go, "Youth is wasted on the young." What does that mean? Well, because we have to learn lessons. And lessons suck. And when we learn those lessons, we wish we'd known them when we had to learn them. So what am I getting at? Our topic is wisdom, specifically the gift and the agony of wisdom. I know that sounds really weird, but I'm going somewhere with it. Hang with me. So what is wisdom? It's a psychological construct, and there's a variety of ways to describe it. You may have somebody in your family that is an elder, whether it's a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, someone who is kind of the matriarch or the patriarch of your family. And they know traditions, especially in communities like indigenous communities or African American communities. They've kind of got a lot of the knowledge, such as, favorite recipes, dealing with life. They have good sage advice. And that's one way to look at it. It is defined as the ability to make sound judgments, especially about complex or uncertain situations or events, and to offer insightful advice. Again, goes back to that youth is wasted on the young. What are the components of wisdom? Knowledge and experience. Tell you a little story. I got 2 kids. And one of my kids, many moons ago, was playing around and they told me their ear hurt. They were in swimming lessons. So called the doctor. We treated it as swimmer's ear. Came back. So kiddo had to go to the doctor. And doctor takes a peek and thinks it's earwax. So they're going to flush it out. Well, let's just say this particular kiddo did not like that idea because the flush thing that they used looked like a giant syringe, like you would see for a horse or something. The kid was not happy. I swear to God, if that kid could have sworn, they would have, but they were too afraid to at the time. So doctor gets it out and looks at it kind of funny and then hands it to me. Turns out it was a rivet from one of my purses. Kiddo looks at me. I go, "Why didn't you tell me?" Kiddo was like, "I'm sorry. I thought I'd be in trouble." Thought about that for a second and I said, "Well, did you enjoy this?" "No." Are you ever going to do it again? No. Lesson learned. That's wisdom. And yes, that's a simple example. But it's important to kind of think about that, because there are more important ones that we will get to as we go on. Reflection. You know, when we take the time to reflect on the mistakes that we've made, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's two words in the English language I absolutely hate: mistake and failure, because they're important. You know, think about learning to walk. You know, and all of us have seen a little one learn how to walk at some point, whether it was your own children or it was somebody else's child. They walk and they fall on their bottom, and they get up and they try again, because they have to keep trying. We have to keep trying. Did you learn how to ride a bike? Don't do what I did, learning how to ride a motorcycle, but you get the idea. You're going to go over a few times before you learn it and know it. Same with therapy. You're not going to do it always the best way you want to the first time. Doesn't mean you're going to do it wrong, but you gain more confidence and skill as you continue to do it. Judgment and decision making, which is another component of wisdom. The problem is, if we don't take the lessons of wisdom, especially the hard ones, such as bad relationships, poor choices, things like that, if we're not willing to reflect and take those lessons, they don't help us in our judgment and decision making. You know, all of us, either ourselves or know someone we love who have been in relationships that we see it and we know it's just not good. But they keep going back to people like that. Or they keep dating the same person, just in a different body. When we're not willing to reflect and say, you know what, that was a really bad idea and I need to do that differently, we aren't gaining wisdom. Compassion and empathy. Self-compassion and empathy for our mistakes is really hard. We live in a society where it's do it right the first time or you're not good enough. Sorry. Everybody makes mistakes. There's no perfect person in this entire world. No one can avoid making mistakes. But we have to be able to give ourselves space to do it. We have to be willing to understand that, yeah, I did that. And here's what I got out of it. And that's the gift of wisdom. We go through that pain. You have a really bad relationship. I know I keep going to relationships, but they're the easiest ones to take about. It could be a bad professional relationship. About a year ago this time, I was not in a good place. I had left a job where I had been bullied. And it's really hard to bully me. But this particular situation turned into that. And I had to learn those lessons so I could come back stronger, come back better, and be the best I am in my careers thus far. It's hard. Had to put myself back in therapy. But I learned it. And so can you. Self-awareness. You know, understanding that something isn't working right. What is it? Sometimes we need therapy to do that. Sometimes we just need a close friend that you're willing to hear it from. Brene Brown talks about having at least one or two ride or die friends. Friends you can go to and say, I did this, I screwed up, and now I got to fix it. And that friend will look at you and say, okay, now what do we do? We need that. And sometimes we need it. We need a little more than that. We need a therapist who will hear us. Think about what you're saying and do so and reflect what you're saying with compassion and empathy. Not absolution, because there are consequences to mistakes. You know, consequences can be good or bad. A good consequence is the result. They simply are the results of the things that you do. You know, One of the good consequences of me knowing Johnny is I get to do this with you. And working on this, but working on myself got me here. Working on myself from a year ago got me here. Being able to say to you, guess what? You can learn. Wisdom is amazing. And acceptance of uncertainty. Could it happen again? Yeah. Absolutely. But what happens is, could a bad thing happen? Yeah. In case you hadn't forgotten what you can control, it's just you. Bad things happen. But how you respond to it will be different because you learned something. It won't be so hard. It won't be so hard to walk away from a bad situation. It won't be so hard to treat yourself with kindness and respect. It won't be so hard to set a boundary. It takes cognitive, emotional, and practical abilities. I know those are a lot of psyches there. And that's what makes it hard. Because thinking about it can be painful. Might even need to cry it. And coming to that point where you say, I really fucked this up, but I can fix it. That's the strength. It is not strong to say, it's your problem. You're the reason I did this. No. Newsflash, we're going to keep repeating this. You are in control of your own behavior. Do not make it somebody else's fault, because it's never anybody else's fault. Your choices are your own. Now, sometimes we make choices out of necessity. We make choices that are difficult, but they are our own. And we might make choices with bad information. And you don't have to be hard on yourself for that, because if you didn't have the right information, you couldn't make the right choice. But then you learn the lesson of getting the right information. What do I mean by that? You might hear from somebody that so-and-so did something with a patient, and I say patient because that's what I do for a living, or coworker, or customer. And you immediately are ready to have that conversation with that person and they're done. But then you find out that's not what happened. That's not how it should have been. And you tore somebody a new asshole for no good reason. The strength comes from the wisdom you just gained from that. You learn how to take a minute. You learn that there's 3 sides to every story. 1, 2, and somewhere in the middle. You will learn that wisdom. It'll make you better at what you do. Sometimes we won't learn it until we have no choice but to learn it. Sometimes, and when I'm talking about that, I can think of a couple of different scenarios. Addiction is one. I mentioned in our first episode that I'm a licensed substance use disorder professional. And sometimes in addiction, it becomes to the point where you do something or you die. You do something or you don't live anymore. You're just existing. You're existing till your next fix. Or you're existing till you can feel better, till you can numb every feeling that you have to the point where you feel nothing. No joy, no kindness, no empathy, no respect, no, all of it. And then when you do start feeling those feelings again, you don't know what to do with them. But it doesn't mean you can't. And that's why help is always a good thing. Another way that we would have to learn when we had no choice can be in the deepest depths of mental illness. When I've had patients who have tried to unalive themselves. I say that because this is YouTube may be involved, and you know how that works. And it's a moment of realization that they've got to do something different if they survive. that it's not, they can't do it that way. There's no reason to do it that way. There is a better way. And it may have been the first time they ever had to get help because they were taken to a hospital to get help. That's what I mean by not having a choice. What is the gift of wisdom? The ability to heal. Injury happens. One of the things I do in my practice is I work with folks. I have worked with active duty military and I work with retired military. And many times I deal with the specialty of military PTSD. I'm not going to go into the gory details of what that looks like. But to suffice to say that sometimes we do things that cause us what's called a moral injury. We do something we're ashamed of. We do something that's against our values. We do something that just makes us feel horrible about ourselves. That's a wound. So it needs treatment. It needs kindness. It needs empathy. Because you're not a bad person. You make bad choices. Who hasn't? I mean, I've been known to do a few blunders in my time. Always turned out badly. It's okay. You're not a bad person. You're a good person who made a shitty choice. And you can heal from that. And the wisdom you take from that shitty choice can help somebody else not make that shitty choice. It can help you move forward. It can be the difference of you learning how to heal from that pain and somebody else who doesn't want to forgive you, because if somebody says they forgive you and then brings up what you did again, they didn't forgive you. They don't understand what forgiveness means. It's the difference between taking accountability for the mistake that you made and taking the power of them bringing it up away from them. It's the difference being hit by a 2x4 versus a pool noodle. Somebody may try to beat you with that mistake again, and you just look at them because they're hitting you with a pool noodle, and you're like, really? Or, okay. And? Because you have learned how to heal. You gain confidence and peace. When you can start to take accountability for your own life and for the mistakes that you've made and gain that wisdom and gain that important information, it builds your confidence. I actually was talking to a patient recently who has been working on this. And I have another child who's very much into Transformers, robots in disguise, that kind of thing. And I described it to this patient that what I was seeing in them is this backbone building. And it wasn't just a regular backbone, but a backbone of steel. It was flexible. It was beautiful, but it was going to be really hard for anybody to break. Confidence and peace comes from wisdom. We learn to make choices instead of making the same damn mistakes, If you go bang your head on the wall and it hurts and you keep doing it, that isn't learning your wisdom. It's like the relationship thing that I was talking about earlier. It's hard sometimes to realize it's scary. We like what feels comfortable. It's like being on a road. When we have to learn the wisdom, we're on this road, and in front of us is a road that's pretty well paved. It's got bumps in it here and there, lots of lights on the side. All of those lights represent hope. But it's cloudy. It's misty. It represents the future because we can't see the future, but we know there's hope there. And that road is twisty and it goes up and down, but it's there. Behind you is crystal clear. And that fucker is a mess. It's full of potholes. It's full of culverts washed out. It will destroy you if you go back down it. And there are people who will say, I can't go forward. It's too scary. But you got to try, even if it's a tiny step. Because going back there may feel better, but then you start existing instead of living. Does everyone have it? Does everyone have wisdom? You have the ability to create your wisdom toolbox. You do it every day. You know, one of my things in my wisdom toolbox, and I realize I'm making a joke, I can't drink black coffee. It really upsets my stomach. Learned it the hard way. But I've also learned other things. I try not to make the same mistake twice, but I've done it. And I learned from it. But, like I said, sometimes they don't want to because of the fear of the unknown, bad relationships, bad situations, fear of accountability. Sometimes accountability can be really big. You know, I mentioned addiction. Some of that can be you have legal issues you have to deal with. Again, you made mistakes. You are not a bad person. You deserve the opportunity to be successful and to live. And you get to decide who's in your life. If the people around you don't accept that, they don't have to be in your life. They don't have to be a part of it. They don't have to be in there at all if you don't want them to. And with that, my darlings, we have reached the no bullshit corner. Final thoughts. I need a drink. Trust me, it's water. The bottom line is, you are not your mistakes. You have every opportunity to learn from them. We never stop learning. Don't give up on learning. Because if you can't learn, you can't grow. And you're there just watching the world go by. Get out there. Live it. Try new things. A friend of mine brought up a show that my kids used to watch religiously. It's called, y'all know what I'm talking about, especially if you're like in your 30s, The Magic School Bus. Try new things. Get messy. Make mistakes. Try it. You may not like it. Okay, lesson learned. Let's move on. You can do it. You can always do it. But always remember, the only thing you have control of in your life is you. Your behavior, how you react to other people's behavior, and the consequences you set for that behavior. Do not give that control to someone else believing it will make you happy. Because that's your job, not anybody else's. Until next time, my friends, take care of yourselves. Be kind, be graceful, practice your self-care, and we'll see you next time.
If you are currently experiencing a mental health crisis, please call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 911, or go to your nearest emergency room immediately. Do not wait for a future appointment or podcast episode. Help is available right now. Remember, you are not alone, and support is always available.